Hey, what is up, guys? RichHomieQuinn here, back with another episode of How To. In this specific episode, we're going to be talking about how to sort of launchpad and the different types of launchpads that you can use, and when to sort of use the specific ones in certain scenarios. So to start off, we're going to be talking about the first launchpad. So it's going to be the basic high launchpad. There's nothing special to it. You just launch in the sky. Obviously, it takes you a long distance, but again, you can end up getting tagged a lot more. The next pad we're going to be talking about is a super simple short pad. So the short pad is right here. So you just place a wall ramp above, and then we go for a short pad. So this pad's better when you have to move close distance. You don't want to get beamed, but you still want to use a pad to sort of save mats or whatnot. And then we're going to be talking about the mid pads. The mid pad is something that is pretty useful when you're in like a one by one up two. So what you want to do is place. So most of the time it would be, you have your little setup right here. You have two layers, you edit, you break down two, and then you can do a sort of mid pad that way. So this pad is like another short pad, but at the same time it gets you a longer distance, and it's something that you can use in your one by one. Let's say you don't want to use a high pad and be too high, but then again a low pad might not take you there. Sometimes a mid pad is something that you can get some use out of. And the next one is going to be called a one-time short pad. So you can sort of place a pad like this when you're under a ramp. That pad's really good when you sort of have to rotate fast. It's specifically used in solos just because it's really hard to reuse. You can reuse it if you do sort of crouch when you're jumping onto it. As you can see, I got it first try there, but another try it's kind of difficult. But that is a sort of skill that you may want to practice too, sort of using these one-time launch pads as if it's already pre-placed. So this pad's really good when you're sort of on the move and you just have to pad straight ahead, and also you don't have to really set up anything too crazy. And then we will be talking about a pad that is called the air pad. So this right here. So this is something that's useful when you're sort of really high up, or let's say you have glider bug and you don't want to have the glider bug. So you still get the use out of the pad, but you will not be gliding. So you sort of hit your head at the very top of this floor, so you don't pull your glider. So you can do this from any distance and you will take 0 fall damage, but you sort of get the use out of the pad still. So yep, that is about all the pads that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be hopping into game, and I'm going to be showing you different uses of how to use them in specifically solos. But yeah, let's get into it. So the first person we're going to be looking at here is Null. We're going to be looking at NA East Solo FNCS Grand Finals. This is going to be the first game, and we're going to sort of see how Null sort of deals with his launch pad. So right here, he's sort of planning out his launch pad. He has two pads that he can use, and he's sort of seeing what's around him, seeing if someone's going to be recycling a pad, and he's also sort of looking and planning his path when it comes to his launch pad. So it's really important, as if you are going to be padding, you sort of have a sort of plan on how you want to pad and whatnot. So he's going to be able to sort of pad here and a little bit, and he's going to be able to use a lot of old builds, and not only with old builds, he's going to be using the terrain to his advantage. So he's going to be padding here, not the first one to pad, but again, he's not padding too late because he doesn't want to take too many storm tags. He tries to sort of sneak down this area where he's going to be blocked by some old builds and trees, but he ends up getting tagged a little bit. But overall, the high pad was pretty good. He ended up getting into a good position. We're going to watch someone else do this exact same rotate and sort of see how they sort of tackled it. So we're going to be hopping on over to Class. So Class here does an absolute fantastic job of this rotate, as we're about to see right here. So Class is a little bit closer to the zone, but unfortunately for him, he does not get the half in zone, so he's going to have to use his pad here. So he ends up hopping in his cone, and again, just like Null, he's going to be getting some information here. He's going to be sort of planning, maybe trying to recycle a pad, maybe go on foot. He's going to see what he wants to do here for this pad. So he's looking for an impact right here, and he doesn't get this impact. So before he pads, he's going to be focused on popping this big pot. This is really important, making sure that you're as full as possible when it comes to before you launch pad, because you can easily get L2'd or just beamed out of the air. So it's everything Class does here is this playbook status right here. Again, doesn't get the impact, so he's going to be going for this big pot. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to go pad this. So a normal person, how they would sort of pad this zone would be, you know, sort of just going from here, white line it to that zone. But Class does a really beautiful pad here by sort of playing with the terrain. Zone starts going in. He's not the first one to pad, but he does the short pad. So we've seen the regular pad, and then we've seen a short pad. And instead, he sort of short pads away from zone, goes around this hill, and then he's going to be able to get a beautiful position into zone. So it's really important of how close he's playing to the hill, because let's say he did get beamed by someone, he could have easily landed, boxed up, and healed up. So he had a really high chance of surviving when it comes to worst case scenario. He was super close to the low ground, so he could always land and won't just be in the air trying to swivel around hoping that he doesn't get beamed. So Clamps right here does an absolute beauty of a launch pad here. And for the rest of the game, for this one, we're going to be watching Kanata play. So Kanata got zone. He's actually going to have 4 launch pads in this game. Absolutely insane. So we're going to sort of see how he uses his launch pads to his advantage here, as he has a lot of them. We're going to sort of see how he plays. So he's looking for some holds here. We can speed ahead a little bit. So we're just going to talk about his sort of positioning with his first pads and sort of how he does it, as it is going to be going over a water. And sort of padding when it comes to water is sometimes difficult. So zone pops up. What Kanata does is that he goes for an early rotate, because he knows all of this zone was already was storm. Right, so he knows that no one's going to be positioned here, so he's going to have a free rotate towards this next area where he's going to be setting up his pad. So one thing that I've watched Kanata do when I was VOD reviewing him is that he has a really, really good play style when it comes to sort of being able to plan ahead. As you can see, he's making sure that nothing goes wrong here. He hears someone, he may go for a shot or two, but his margin of error is very, very slim to none. He has really good time management. So he's going to wait for this pad right here, and he's going to be doing a short pad. He realizes that he can't land on land, so he's just going to be landing on some old builds. As he has a lot of launch pads, he should be able to do this. A lot of people might mistake themselves and end up landing in the water, which could get him server focused, because he is on sort of dead side zone. So for this next one, he's going to be using a pad here. He decides to go for a high pad here, and he's going to get ahead of zone and land on sort of mid-ground right here. So he's still going to have a couple more pads to use throughout this endgame, but just the basic pads right here is going to get a beautiful impact, or try to get a beautiful impact, as he isn't the healthiest on mats here. But again, another short pad, getting him ahead of zone. It's really important to, when you have a lot of these pads, that you want to make sure to use them, right? What I see a lot of players use is that they're like, oh, I might as well just rotate the zone, it's super close to me. When in reality, they're going to end up wasting more mats and having a launch pad that's just going to be in their inventory for the rest of the game. So making sure that you use all pads is super, super important. And it's exactly what Kanata does. He doesn't have the most mats, but he gets, you know, a lot of free rotates just because of his pads situation. And again, this pad doesn't put him in the best position, but it's sort of the thought that pad could have put him in a really good ahead of zone position. But he just, out of the 4 pads that he did, he had 3 really good ones. And I sort of just want to highlight sort of how he had really good efficiency and use out of his pads. But yeah, we're going to be hopping in the next game to sort of see how another player uses their launch pads. Alright, so we're going to be hopping in the second game. And we're sort of just going to be watching a Liege. So Liege has a pad, but again, just because you have a pad doesn't mean you need to use it. It's just sort of what I wanted to emphasize. He has a free rotation here. He ends up seeing it, so he just takes advantage of it. And here he goes for the rotate. So again, he gets into this next zone without needing to use this pad. Saves it for later. So I just wanted to point that out. We're going to be hopping on over to Bully to sort of see what happens from Bully's POV here. So I'm going to be speeding ahead of Bully. So Bully's in a position where he's sort of center in zone, so he doesn't have to pad straight away or rotate straight away, so he can sort of go for holds. So Bully ends up being able to get a good amount of vision here. He's going to be seeing some vision when it comes to people around, and he ends up spotting Knight. So Knight's issue here when it comes to this pad is that he sort of doesn't have a game plan. He was sort of just farming up and whatnot, but Bully's going to be able to take advantage of that because he ends up seeing Knight over here moving around. You know, versus Kanata. Kanata sort of had a game plan before zone started moving. and before going for that pad. Bully is sort of the opposite, when he is going to be able to sort of see Knight setting up this pad, and when he goes for this pad, he ends up getting a good beam onto Knight, versus let's say if Knight was sort of incognito with it, Bully's eyes would not be placed on that person who's sort of running around. And you know, maybe Bully's thinking, oh, this guy doesn't have a pad since he's on foot, maybe he's going to be easy beams or whatnot, so he's going to be able to beam that person right there. And then we're going to be hopping on over to Outcast Kel to sort of see how they do the rotation, and sort of talking about the disadvantages of sort of launch padding, being the first person to launch pad, because sometimes when you're the first person to launch pad, you're going to be the first target when it comes to the air. So Kel is put on this very, very edge area, which makes this rotate pretty difficult. So Zone goes straight ahead, and he sort of goes into Storm, takes it 2 Storm ticks, 3 Storm ticks for this. And since him and TJ are the first people in air, you know, it's all these people that were in the zone chilling right here are just going to go for beams before they even rotate themselves. So making sure that you sort of have some vision and seeing, oh, there's going to be tons of people holding me, maybe I should launch pad a little bit later. You know, you won't be TJ or Kel here, who gets absolutely beamed because they're the first 2 people to launch pad, and everyone else is just sort of looking for holds. So making sure that you aren't the first to launch pad. Maybe I think Kel maybe had some floppers. Maybe he pops a flopper or 2 before he pads, and maybe puts him in a better position. So then we're going to be hopping on over to Kanata again. We're going to be going back to Kanata to sort of see how he does this rotation. So Kanata is, again, he's sort of put towards the edge over here, but again, he's not super edge, so he's not going to be the first one to pad in his section. Kanata, again, being very visual, seeing his game plan, making sure nothing bad happens before he pads. Again, he waits on the pad, hears 2 people go for the pad, and he goes for the pad himself. Puts himself in a good position for this next zone. So another thing that's really important when it's padding. So a high pad's really good when you have to go a long distance, versus a short pad. A short pad's good when you got to go in a short distance. So you really want to use a high pad when it comes to elevation changes too. Let's say you're down at the very bottom of the hill, you want to get on top, or maybe going for height, going into Storm, going on some old builds. That's when you want to use a high pad most of the time. Kanata, good use of a high pad just because it was a long distance and he needed to get up on top of a hill. So you really only want to use high pad when it comes to half and half out or first moving. That's exactly what Kanata does here. Most of the time you don't even need to use it in first moving too. So he's going to be able to go for some holds here. He still has another pad in his inventory, which he's going to be able to use. Like I was just saying, he uses this one-time short pad because even if he would have made this pad a little bit taller, right, and placed it right here, he would have been a little bit higher and maybe would have missed a second or 2 of touching the ground before other people. So instead he does that very short single-use pad to get him sort of into this position where he's going to be lower and being able to land and touch the ground. So Kanata, I've been bothering him a lot, and I really like how he uses his pads and sort of how he positions himself and sort of just prepares himself when it comes to rotating zones. And I think that's why he's an amazing solo player. We're gonna hop on over to one more person for the rest of the game. I'm pretty sure Arab does a rotate with a pad here, but we won't show that on the stream. We're gonna be watching Jolty. Jolty has this pad right here. So Jolty's sort of the mid ground. He's gonna be able to sort of go for a high pad. So this high pad isn't bad just because it goes back up in elevation around onto old builds. So he doesn't really get punished for the high pad just because, you know, a high or low pad would be a good situation. The higher you are when it comes over a hill, usually the better. So again, sometimes it's not overthinking a pad is good, and that's exactly what Jolty does. Puts him in a position where he's going to be able to hold these people too, so a high pad obviously was the better choice here. He's going to be able to rotate ahead here and whatnot. So for the rest of the game, that is really all we have when it comes to the pad things. And again, Jolty tries to use this pad right here, but why it doesn't work out is because of the floor and being in a spot. I don't know why my camera view is like that, but we're going to go back just to sort of see. So Jolty ends up trying to recycle a pad, which is a really, really good thought. The only issue is that it was set up for an air pad. So if Jolty maybe realized that, he could have maybe broke that and then sort of pulled sort of what Class did last game, and done that as a rotate. But again, this is the pad that he's going to be hitting right in here. Since it is an air pad, he isn't going to be able to use it as a launch pad and use his glider. So we do end up being able to see an example of an air pad, but it's as an accident. But yeah, we're going to be hopping into the final last game to sort of see what happens there when it comes to how to launch pad. You cannot make this stuff up, guys. While I was going to be opening up the next replay, I go back into the lobby, and this is what pops up. It wants my opinion on the launch pad, which is kind of funny since that's what this episode is on. It's crazy how the world works, but yeah, I just wanted to put this in because I thought it was an extremely weird circumstance of where it wanted my feedback on the launch pad when I was just watching replays. Super weird. So we're going to be hopping on to Unknown for this last game here to sort of see how he uses his 3 launch pads. So his first launch pad that he places here is going to be really good. He's going to play it pretty well. He's scouting out before he pads, making sure that he has vision, looking for a hold before he goes for a pad. He's going to decide to do a high pad for his first pad here. But he ends up seeing someone holding him. So he has really good vision, so he's going to end up being able to drop down before this tree. He's just not going to go straight towards the person who's holding him. He's going to recycle, or not really recycle, but just use the tree as cover. He's just going to decide to play right behind it, drop down, and when he drops down here, he's going to do a beautiful play and sort of put himself in a position where it might be a little bit more difficult to locate him. So he actually uses the storm. He hops into the storm right there, and maybe that puts himself in a position where it's sort of a little bit more difficult to see him, as the person in front of him was maybe trying to hold. Puts himself in the position where he's sort of incognito. So we're going to be skipping ahead to sort of see how Unknown uses another pad here. So Unknown, he's sort of on edge zone. There's a lot of people around him. He's marking where he's wanting to go towards, which is really good. It gives himself a visual representation of sort of where he wants to land, where he wants to aim towards. It's really important to sort of mark zone when you have these free chances, these dead times, as Unknown has right now. He has nothing but time. So he's sort of playing out his rotate, which is really good. But his issue is not being aware that other players could sort of block his launch pad and sort of go over towards his builds. So he's going to be trying to go for a little bit later pad, but the longer you wait, the more people build up over you. So Unknown, he sees, recognizes this, decides to try to go ahead, doesn't place a pad there too early, going to be going for a little panic high pad. But going for a high pad at this time isn't too bad because there's a lot of other people in there with you. Unknown's going to be continuing this rotate, puts himself at a pretty good layer. He's not too low, not too high. He's going to be able to use some mats here. Just expanding in. He's going to be getting into his next zone. He's going to be looking for a hold. So let's see how he's going to be able to use this last launch pad here. So Unknown is sort of in a hectic situation. He's sort of playing very edge storm. Doesn't get zone. Zone pulls far. So he's going to be using a flopper here. And then he's going to be going for a short pad. So he ends up getting sort of held from the front. Someone's going for beams on him from the front, so he gets beamed. But he's using the short pad, which only results him from getting tagged twice out of the air. You know, if he did a maybe a one wall and then ramp short pad, he could have probably died out of the air there. But he's able to sort of put himself in a position where he's able to place a pad fast and gets himself out of a sticky situation. Even though he almost did die there, again, the short pad came out clutch, and he could have get held or whatnot. But that's basically all I have to show you guys when it comes to sort of launch pads and sort of how to use different ones in certain scenarios. I hope this did help you guys out. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like, comment down below what you guys want to see an episode on next. But yeah, if you guys did like this one, I also have a playlist on more how-to videos. So if you guys do want to check those out, you will improve your game knowledge and get higher IQ. So I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.